everybody. This is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Hope you're all doing well. Wanted to come on and talk a little bit, do a post-game show of the 49ers 17-7 victory over the Minnesota Vikings at US Bank Stadium in Minnesota tonight. It was an ugly game, but one that proved that the 49ers backups are better than the Vikings backups, that's for sure. If you go through it real quick, just kind of, thinking about the game and how it went, Nate Sudfeld, Brock Purdy, the two backup quarterbacks for the 49ers, they rotated possessions, two possessions for Sudfeld, two possessions for Purdy. They did that throughout the whole game, and it worked out pretty well for the 49ers. We'll get into that a little bit here. Rohan is in the house. He says, I made the beginning finally. Good to have you on board, Rohan. We have E. Kim in the house. He says, hey, Jack, good to have you in here, E. Kim. We've got Archon Jedi says, let's go. Peter Mua says, how's it going, Jack? It's going good. It was a fun game to watch. It was a little entertaining. It was good to see the 49ers backups playing tonight. E. Kim says, not sure why the 49ers keep drafting running backs in the third round. We'll get into that. I agree with you there, E. Kim, especially when the undrafted free agent looked so much better than both of the guys that were drafted in the third round these last 2 years. Greg Plattner says, Jordan Mason, he gives a couple of big muscle pumps there for sure. That was a good performance again by Jordan Mason. This guy deserves some carries. I'm telling you, he needs to be getting more work than what he's getting right now. That's for sure. So let's just go through it. Let's look at the quarterbacks. They both stood out to me. I thought that both of them played well. They're both efficient. Sudfeld completed 13 of 17 for 102 yards. He had the game-winning touchdown on the throw to Jermichael Hasty on the little in route. It was a choice route. Hasty took the in cut, and Sudfeld put it on him for a touchdown. Sudfeld's a guy who, if you go back and you look at my tweets from before training camp, I wasn't so hot on him being the backup. But, I think if he needed to start a game or two for the 49ers this year, he might be able to hold his own. He's been a pleasant surprise. I thought he played well tonight. 13 of 17, not a bad night. And then Brock Purdy as well. Purdy, I thought had a good performance against Green Bay, and I thought he put together another solid performance tonight. The 7th round draft pick. He was 14 of 23 for 128 yards. But look at his 9 incompletions, and there were at least 3 drops. There was another one that was a throwaway. And then they took a couple of deep shots into the end zone at the end of the first half. He really kind of was what got the offense going. The offense was shooting itself in the foot left and right throughout the first half, one thing after another. And then that 2-minute drive right at the end of the first half kind of got the offense going. And you saw them be able to put it together a couple of times. And in the second half, they had 2 really nice drives to open up the second half. It was a strong performance. I felt like both quarterbacks played well. They just, we'll get into the guys who were with the drops and those types of things, but we'll get there in a second. A lot of good stuff going on in the comment section. A lot of things that I agree with. Let's take a look at for me, Ty Davis Price. I'm not sure what to make of Ty Davis Price at this point. He's supposed to be a physical back, but instead of hitting the hole, he bounces around. We saw it on 4th and 1 early in the game. There was a crease there for him to hit it up inside and just put his head down and push the pile for the half a yard that they needed to get. And instead, he bounces it to the right, runs lateral to the line of scrimmage, and he's dropped for no gain. He just dances too much in the backfield. We've seen him do that a number of times. But, then in the second half, the rookie, turned it around. He had a couple better runs in that second half. I think, you look at what he did there. There was a couple of times where he had the ball and just really hit the hole and started going downfield like what the 49ers want, which that Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff is looking for. He had a couple of runs that were had a 14-yard run and a 12-yard run. The one up the middle, right by the goal line on that first drive of the second half, that was exactly what you want to see. He got the ball, he hit that hole downhill, right up the middle, got stopped just short of the goal line, but was about the 2-yard line. Then at the down in deep, he had a nice run. It was only a gain of 1, and then things fell apart. It wasn't his fault, but that run, and then later on he had another one. It was the 14-yarder It was off the right side. You see him give it a nice stiff arm, and then he breaks a couple of tackles running through people. And that's the kind of stuff that I think we were expecting to see from Ty Davis Price. Not the moving and dancing and shaking and that kind of stuff. So he's been a little hit and miss, but it seemed like tonight he kind of figured it out after a rough start and got better. It's going to have to be him doing it on a regular basis. That's the thing. That's what I'm a little worried. At this point, we haven't seen him put it back to, put it together. He's a lock to make the roster, but I don't think tonight was a really solid performance for him. There were some nice pieces to it, but it wasn't an all around solid performance. If you want to look at solid performances in the backfield, you look to JaMycal Hasty and what Jordan Mason did tonight. Hasty, back-to-back weeks, has done a really good job of running between the tackles. He only got the ball 3 times tonight, Hasty. All 3 of them were inside runs. He picked up 15 yards, running up inside, which you don't really expect from him. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit more of a scat back type of guy, but he's done a really good job as Hasty of hitting the ball up inside and picking up those tough yards throughout the first 2 preseason games. And Jordan Mason, I don't know what else to say about this guy. He's, to me, watching Jordan Mason run the ball, he's earned an opportunity to get carries earlier in these preseason games. Going into week 3 in Houston, I think Jordan Mason's done enough where he should get some run with the ones just to see what he can do, because he has looked good every time he's touched the ball in both preseason games. Today, he's always attacking the line of scrimmage. He's never dancing. It's all downhill. There's no wasted motion in what he does. He runs through people. The one run he had down by the goal line, they ended up having to settle for a field goal, but that was just a really nice run where he was able to get going, busted through some tacklers, and picked up 17 yards. I think Jordan Mason right now is better than Trey Sermon. Quite frankly, the way he's running the ball, the things that he's doing, the way that he attacks the line of scrimmage and is going downhill. He had 9 carries tonight for 57 yards. I think he's better than Trey Sermon. I like Trey Sermon, but I would rather have Jordan Mason and what he brings to the table over Trey Sermon. Let Mason be a threat out of the backfield. Let him continue he can do everything that Trey Sermon does. He just does it better. That's really kind of the end of it and really where it stands when it comes to Jordan Mason. He's just, really wants Sermon to do well, but he's not. He averaged under 2 yards per carry in week 1, and I felt like something like that was a lot had to do with the offensive line. Tonight he was under 2 yards again, and tonight I don't think it was because of the offensive line. There were plays to be made, and they didn't get made. Quesadilla Thrilla says here, good to have you on board. I know I've seen you over on Rob's channel. He says Mason initiates contact. TDP and Sermon dance around and don't follow blockers or hit holes, but maybe TDP will pick it up. But how they going to keep that many backs? I think what, let's see what happens. I don't know about Trey Sermon. I think they like him, but I don't know. We'll see, because I'm not sold on Trey Sermon. I really like Trey Sermon. I thought he was going to make this roster. The more I've watched him in the preseason, he's looked good in training camp in spurts. He's had some good moments. We're just not seeing it translate onto the field when the lights are on, and that's an issue for me. You got to be able to see that when he's got to be making those plays during big moments when the lights are on. And I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do there. They have 6 really good running backs, maybe 5. But yeah, I'm not sure there. And Chris Royal comes in with the super chat. Thank you very much, Chris. He says, hey, Jack, with Sermon struggling, should the Niners look at giving more reps in game 3 to Hasty and Mason? They look significantly better. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. That's what I believe. Well, I'm not sure about Hasty, because I think we know what Hasty can do, because he's been given some run with the earlier on in games. He got some run tonight with the starters. I want to see Jordan Mason working with the starters. I just want to see what he looks like working with that unit. We didn't see Elijah Mitchell, though. We didn't see Elijah Mitchell run with the starters at all last year in the preseason. We didn't see Elijah Mitchell run with the first team offense until week 1 in Detroit after the injury to Raheem Mostert. So who knows where this is all going to land? But I would like to see some more action for for Jordan Mason. I think I've said a number of times, thank you very much for the super chat. I've said a number of times that, I was high on Elijah Mitchell, and I'm feeling the same way with Jordan Mason. I actually think Jordan Mason has potential to be the best back on this team. This is an offense that I think needs a running back that can be explosive, because the only running back on this team right now that I think can take it to the house is Jordan Mason. The other backs, I like them, but I don't think that they can do it, which is why I think that falls back to Deebo Samuel, kind of like what it did last year. Yeah, and Moses brings up a good one too. He says, Jack, I was happy with the DBs in this game. Lenore played the proper technique, something I had talked about him. And did you see my dude Knight making some hits? I told you, Jack. No, Knight's a good player. I've never said that Knight's not. I just don't know if he's a guy that's going to make the roster. He struggles in one-on-one coverage a little bit, but as a safety, I think he's much better as a safety than he is as a slot corner. Like him a lot, and really quick, you brought up Dominic Lenore, so let's just jump down to that one, because that was one of the guys I want to talk about. Because Lenore struggled last year to cover those deep routes, and tonight we saw him run stride for stride with the Vikings wide receiver on a go route down the left sideline. Then we saw him jump inside and play in the slot, and he did a really nice job sticking with the receiver on the in-breaking route, and he was able to get his hand in there and knock the ball away. So I thought it was a really good performance by Diamador Lenore. I think right now, Diamador Lenore of the guys that they drafted last year, Diamador Lenore is better than Ambry Thomas, and Ken Crawley is better than Ambry Thomas too. So Ambry Thomas right now is probably 5 or 6 on the depth chart when we talk about just guys that can play on the outside. And then you have, you obviously have Samuel Womack, and I'm not sure where Ambry Thomas falls on this roster right now. He's been struggling, and I don't know if I even saw him on the field today. Kim, I see your thing on Kinlaw. He definitely played well tonight. We're going to get to that in a minute. Quesadilla Thrilla joins the toolbox. There we go. The Quesadilla Thrilla. I love the Quesadilla. That's the best name there is, because now I need to go get a quesadilla. That makes me hungry every time I see that pop up. But Chris Royal with another super chat. He says, does Sermon have trade value or a potential cut? I'm not sold on keeping him on the roster if he can't pick it up going into the season. I'm with you on that. I think that if you look at the way that they've played in the preseason games, right now, Trey Sermon would be behind Jordan Mason. He'd be behind Jermichael Hasty. He'd be behind Elijah Mitchell, just because Elijah Mitchell. He was a starter last year. I think he'd be behind Jeff Wilson Jr. I think Ty Davis Price is 5th, probably makes the roster just because he was drafted this year. But beyond that, Ty Davis Price and Trey Sermon, I think, are the two running backs that should be lowest on the totem pole with the 49ers right now. I don't see that necessarily playing out that way because of draft position, and we'll see. Quesadilla Thrilla comes in again, says, like and subscribe. If you could, that'd be fantastic. If you like the show, you like what you see, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, become a member of the Toolbox, and take advantage of all those things. Because if you have that little $sign next to your name, you're much more likely to get your question answered, unless it's a super chat. Just the way that it goes, because the people that are spending money, those are the ones that are going to get bumped to the front of the line. But I'll try to get to everybody. No, Ekim, I don't see that. The injury to Matt Corral with the foot injury, I don't see that affecting any quarterback movement. Corral wasn't going to start for the Panthers this year anyway, so him being injured doesn't change any of their plans. It just puts off his development for a year. He'll get all the mental reps, but he won't be able to get the physical reps like what Trey Lance did a year ago. I don't know. I've been one of those guys who doesn't believe that the 49ers are going to keep 3 quarterbacks. I think there's other spots on the roster where they want to have, some guys that are going to be able to dress, because they're not going to dress 3 quarterbacks on game day. That's going to be a really tough question for them to answer. Is it a situation where they gave Nate Sudfeld $2 million to buy themselves the option to cut Nate Sudfeld and put him onto the practice squad? I think that's the only way that they keep, that might be one option. And in that situation, I know it makes it look like Purdy is the backup, but Purdy can be the inactive player. They can bring up Sudfeld for game days, kind of like what they did at times last year. So, the way that rosters can be manipulated, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And Quesadilla Thrilla comes in, says, join the channel. It costs about an energy drink a month. Come on, support the channel. It's easy. Scan the code from my TV. Just click the channel icon. Super easy. Let's go. So there you go. Join that channel. It's all right there. That's about right. About an energy drink a month. It's just over, if I was $4.99, an energy drink costs you about $3.50 right now. So go out there and let's do it. Let's continue to grow this channel. So we talked about the running backs. Let's get to the tight ends a little bit. You had Tanner Hudson, who came out and the backup tight end. He had 5 catches for 43 yards. The first pass that came his way would have been a first down. It was an out route on the right side, hit him right in the chest, and he dropped it. But the next 5 that came his way, he caught all of them. Had some big catches to help move the sticks on drives in the second half. So I thought it was a good game overall for Hudson. Same thing with Ross Dwelley. Dwelley had a couple of false starts in the first half that hurt the 49ers offense, but he also had 3 catches, three targets. He caught all 3 of them for 38 yards. He had a long of 16 on a really nice stick nod route up the left side, where he kind of took a step to the out and then went up the field, and they stuck it on him. So it was a good game for both of the backup tight ends there. I think we didn't see Croft or Fumagalli caught any tonight. Fumagalli might have, if I take a look at it really quick. Fumagalli did. He had 2 catches for 10 yards. Croft had 1 for 19. So all the 49ers tight ends were pretty involved tonight, actually. And then we take a look really quick at Danny Gray. Gray had a drop on a pass that should have been a completion. It was an over route coming from left to right. Purdy had booted out his play action, rolled out to his right, put the ball right on Gray's hands, and he dropped it. But he came back, he had a couple of catches for 24 yards. He was wide open in the end zone to get the 2-point conversion from Nate Sudfeld that put the 49ers up 14-7. So the rookie continues to be making plays, and that's one of the things. That's a big positive to see him be consistent, making plays at all different levels of the field. It's not just the go routes. You're seeing him catch the ball over the middle, and that's something that's good to see, and see him be tough and be willing to stick his head in there and make those tough catches. Yeah, and I agree with what Gammon has to say here. He says Danny Gray is looking like the real deal, trying not to drink too much of the hype Kool-Aid, but sheesh. And I agree. Early on, I was not impressed with Danny Gray. I thought that there was some struggles that were going on, but I feel like he's really come into his own over the second half of training camp, and we're seeing him start to make plays on a regular basis. Even in camp, he's making more plays. He didn't practice this week in Santa Clara, but before that I meant. Having a couple of catches again tonight. He had 2 last week, 2 today. It's a good start for the rookie. And it looks like Gammon's helping out Moses, so I appreciate that. Jason Poe, let's talk about, you got to talk a second about the undrafted rookie free agent. He just continues to impress. He's showing the ability to consistently get push in the run game. And for the second week in a row, you see him come across the line of scrimmage, come down the line on a pull and just crush a defender. He did it last week against Green Bay. He did it again tonight against the Vikings. I'm really impressed with Jason Poe. I don't think he's going to make the initial roster, 53-man, but this guy looks really good. And I think the 49ers have a guy that they can get onto the practice squad and become a keeper. KW2421 asks, are you surprised they didn't play Lance given his lack of game experience? No, this was the plan all along, going back to with Trey Lance. This was the plan going all the way back to before the first preseason game, just with the short turnaround. I think the 49ers, both teams didn't play very many guys tonight. And I think for the 49ers in particular, with their next game coming up on Thursday, I think they really want to make sure that they get all of their starters some action in their final preseason game. There's 17 days between the final preseason game and week 1 out in Chicago. So I think that they're really focused on trying to make sure that they can get as many starters as possible on the field against Houston on Thursday night. There was no reason for Lance to get out there. Gave a lot of reps to Purdy and Sudfeld, and I think that really worked out in the best for the 49ers with the way that they played it out tonight. Lance got a lot of reps, but he had 33 passes, I think it was, over the last 2 days against Minnesota. And really those, I know that it's a practice instead of game, but it's about as close to a game situation as you can get. These preseason games, even though they're technically games, they're not the same thing as regular season games either. So I don't think that's a big deal at all. And then Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford, Nate Sudfeld and Brock Purdy, they found themselves under duress throughout the first half. But when you go back and you look at it, the pressure wasn't coming from Banks and Burford. It was coming from everybody else. So fortunately for the 49ers, those two I thought did well. They were the only two starters that played along the offensive line tonight. And from the regular starting unit, they're the only two that were in. And I thought that Banks and Burford held up well. There was one or two times when they struggled a little bit. Banks did, one I remember, but I thought for the most part he did pretty well. We've got Dan Rostick, a member of the Toolbox in here. He jumps in real quick to say, "What's up, Jack and everyone? Hope you enjoyed the game, Dan." It was an interesting game for the 49ers. It's always fun to watch these preseason games. You kind of can easily get caught up and just whatever. But tonight's contest was one where you have all the backups from both teams playing, and it was good to see the 49ers have better backups than the Vikings. And so there's definitely something to be taken into that. Yeah. Wishnowsky, his accuracy has improved. However, watching 66 and the Vikings, a punter who won't make their team, just absolutely yeet a ball in the air for dramatic airtime. Yeah. It would have been nice to have seen the 49ers be able to use one of their draft picks on the punt god who ended up in, I believe it was in Buffalo. But that guy can just pound the ball. It would have been good to see him on the team, but didn't work out. Did you see the huge smile on Bosa's face after Kinlaw's sack? If all goes according to plan, Kinlaw's success leads to many Bosa sacks. That's absolutely right. And we're going to get to Kinlaw here in a minute. Just got one guy before him, and it's Charles Omenihu. It was an up and down. I thought it was an up and down game for Omenihu. He played a lot. He did a really good job early on. He split a couple of Vikings defenders to drop the running back for no gain. That was, I think, on the first or second possession. But then you watch in the second quarter, he can't keep. He loses contain on the outside. Doesn't keep his outside leverage, and that leads to a long run for the Vikings that along the right side that ended up becoming the drive when the Vikings scored only points to the board with a touchdown there in the second quarter. So it's a little bit up and down for him, and then you get to Javon Kinlaw, and Kinlaw. I don't think it was an extremely solid game for him. I think there were some times where you see him flash, and then you see him kind of not do so well. He's not consistent, I don't think, at this point, but he shows the ability to flash, and I think that's key. Now he needs to start to do that more consistently. He had that really nice sack in the first half. That was a really good play for Kinlaw because usually when he's rushing, he's getting into the chest of the guard or the center, whoever he's rushing against. And doesn't disengage. And what I liked about that particular play when he got to the quarterback is you saw him get to the edge of the guard. Instead of running straight into his chest, he took an inside move, got to his inside shoulder, and was able to run by him. And that was a really nice play. And then a little bit later on, you saw him beat the right guard. Excuse me, it was the left guard. He was on the right side. You saw him beat the left guard, and he had a free run at the quarterback and got his hands up, but he just wasn't able to get him up quick enough. And so instead of batting the ball down, it was a throw out to the left side. But Kinlaw is, I think, a piece that's going to be big for the 49ers. If Kinlaw can stay healthy, he's going to eat up offensive linemen, and he's going to allow Nick Bosa to work. Same thing with Eric Armstead. If Javon Kinlaw is healthy and he's forcing people to pay attention to him, that's going to free up Eric Armstead inside next to him. It's going to free up Nick Bosa on the outside of him. So he's a big piece of the 49ers pass rush as they go into this season. So he needs to stay healthy. That's for sure. Quesadilla Thrilla asks, Jack, do you think the O-line is good enough or are we in trouble? I think the offensive line is fine. I understand that the offensive line didn't look good tonight, but that's also with Jordan Mills, who's not going to make the team. It was with Keaton Sutherland, who probably won't make the team. And it was just with Justin School, who Justin School has been beaten like a drum throughout training camp. So to see him give up a sack tonight and struggle in pass protection, that's nothing new. We've seen it all along. The other one, Jordan Mills, he's looked okay in pass protection, but tonight he looked slow. And Keaton Sutherland, he had the sack that he gave the sack on that one right up the middle. But he also got beat a couple other times and the quarterbacks were able to bail him out. So, you look at this game and of the 5 offensive linemen, there was only 2 on the field that played that are going to be starters for the 49ers. And those 2 handled their business. It was everybody around them in the first half was having trouble. So I think the 49ers offensive line is going to be good enough. I don't think it's going to be dominant, but I think it's going to be good enough. Let's see what else we've got. Let's go to Drake Jackson. So I continue to be impressed with Drake Jackson. Again, Jackson is one of those guys who early on didn't impress me. I didn't think much of, like, for example, Jason Poe earlier. I wasn't impressed with Jason Poe during rookie minicamp, but I've seen him continue to grow and I've seen a lot of progress from him. Same thing with Drake Jackson. I wasn't impressed with him he wasn't out there during rookie minicamp, but during OTAs, I wasn't impressed with what I saw of him at that point. But since the pads have come on during training camp has started, and then as the pads have come on, Jackson's come alive, and you can see that he's starting to be more comfortable working in the NFL, working again, doing moves. Last week he had a really nice pass breakup on a bootleg out to his side where he was able to, keep outside contain on the quarterback and then get back and still get his hands up and knock the ball down. And we saw him do that tonight. He was rushing the passer off the right side of the offense. It looked like he got knocked off balance, but they tried to throw a screen over him, and he was still able to get up and get his hand on the ball to knock the pass down. So, he's been impressive. A couple of pass breakups and so far in the preseason. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Drake Jackson can do. He's not going to be a starter. I don't expect him to be a starter for the 49ers this season. He's going to be a situational pass rusher, but I think he's going to be a darn good one. Opposite of Nick Bosa, opposite of Samson Ebukam, kind of rolling in there as one of them. I think he's going to be solid. That's Drake Jackson, the top draft pick for the 49ers. He looks good. And then also Kamoko Toure. This is a guy who in Toure, he's been interesting. If you go back and you watch the game against Green Bay, you saw him make some really nice plays in the run game, making nice stops for, tackles for no gain or tackles for loss. Tonight, you saw him on the pass rush. It was a bootleg out to his side, and you saw him, again, kind of maintaining outside leverage on the quarterback. And then when the ball started to get thrown, you saw him get his hands up, get his hand on the ball to knock it down. So, again, a really good game out of Kamoko Toure. I think he makes the roster. I think he's a guy that's kind of on the fringe, right? He's not necessarily going to be one of your top 4 defensive linemen, but he's in that second wave, right on that second team guy, maybe opposite of Drake Jackson on the second unit type of thing. Just been really solid and doing a really good job. Talked a little bit already about Justin School and Jordan Mills and Keaton Sutherland. So let's wrap it up with Juwan Jennings. Jennings, it's been a tough go for Juwan Jennings. He has struggled throughout training camp with catching the ball, and we saw it again tonight. He had a couple of catches, short catches, nothing of any significance really, and then you see him get out to the right side. He's wide open on the right side, and Brock Purdy puts a perfect ball on him, hits him right in the hands, and he drops it. So it's rough. It's been a rough go for Juwan Jennings. In some ways, Danny Gray, I think, is pushing him a little bit, but I think that Jennings is a different type of player. He does different things for the 49ers of anything. I think Jennings best role might be as a big third receiver, kind of as your second number 2 tight end in a way. I know he's not actually a tight end, but you put him in the position where you would normally want to have your receiving tight end opposite of George Kittle. Think of what they were doing in 2020 when they brought in the receiving tight end and those types of things. So I think that you look at Juwan Jennings, he's okay. He's struggling a little bit, but he's gonna make the team. I just don't, at this point, it's been a rough go of it so far. And Rohan wants to know if he can get he likes the 49ers talk and all, but he wants to get my autograph. Well, Rohan, if you make it to another game, make sure you hit me up. I'll give you an autograph. I think you're probably going to be in Wisconsin by the time the 49ers are back in Santa Clara for the next game. But hit me up. You know how to get a hold of me. Maybe I'll have to have you, send something to me and I'll have to sign it for you. Who knows? I'm teasing. But it was a good game. Like I said, it was ugly tonight in a lot of ways. The 49ers shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. The one drive that was really nice to open up the second half, they get all the way down there, and then you have the fumble, which I think, that should have been I don't know if it should have been offsides on the defense. It looked like he was getting there. It never showed like a sideline view, so I don't know what that is. But that was kind of a tough break. So, we'll see. Ecam says that autograph will be worth a few pennies someday. Well, it'll probably be worth like, I don't know, 1,000 Bitcoin, right? Something around there. Probably about the same. I think they have about the same value right now, right? And Rohan also says that he's looking for something to burn in the fire. Well, that's a good point, Rohan. You can use an autograph for me. I think you're right, because my hot takes would make it much easier for you to start a fire, for sure. If you use that, maybe I'll put a couple of hot takes on there on that piece of paper when I sign it for you, and that should help you get a fire lit on one of those cold Wisconsin nights with no problem at all. So that's the show for tonight. Unless there's any other questions that you guys want to ask me, it was an ugly game for the 49ers, but at the same time, it was good to see the backups getting as much run as they did. I think it's becoming very clear who makes the roster, who doesn't. You start to, Colton McKivitz doesn't play today. I think Colton McKivitz makes the roster. If he was on the bubble in any way, he wouldn't have been there. So it was a good performance all around. They put it together after a rough start. The second half was much better. Get the ball to Jordan Mason. I want to see Jordan Mason get the ball more often. That's my going out of tonight. I was saying it last week that I was impressed with Jordan Mason. I've said it going all the way back to early in the offseason that I really like Jordan Mason, what he can do. So I'm all on board the Jordan Mason hype train. We'll see if that thing stays on the tracks or if it gets derailed. But it was a really good performance for him tonight. I thought Brock Purdy played well. Nate Sudfeld. The defense is solid. I mean, heck, you look at the linebackers between, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. This is a guy who, he'd start for most of these teams in the NFL. And right now he's the 49ers' fourth best linebacker. Same thing with Oren Burks. He's started games last year for Green Bay. I think that a guy like Marcelino McCray-Ball could probably make a roster if he wasn't playing with the 49ers. So there's a lot of talent on this team. Especially on that defensive side. The offensive side has some. It hasn't quite come around yet, but it's going to be interesting. The 49ers now will be flying home tonight. It looks like there might be practice on Monday and Tuesday, and then they'll be heading out to Houston on Wednesday in preparation for their final preseason game, which takes place on Thursday night. And then they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before they have to make cut downs to get to their 53-man roster. So they have to make a couple of roster moves this week. I think it's going to be 1:00 on Wednesday. They need to be down to 80. So you'll see a couple of guys go this week, and then you've got the game on Thursday night, and then everybody else is going to be gone by next Tuesday, I believe it is, for the 53-man cut down. So John asked really quick, and I'll hit this as my last question, or we'll see where we go with it. But John asked, will all the starters play the last preseason game? I think so. I think that is the expectation. I think that's partly why they were all held out tonight. If you remember last year in the preseason, that finale against the Raiders at Levi Stadium, that was the one game that Trent Williams played in. They put a lot of the starters in there for the first half, for a couple of possessions at the beginning of the first half, in the first quarter there. So I think that's the goal, is to get all the starters in for at least a few plays in that game, because then you have 17 days before week 1 in Chicago. So if you're asking me to place a bet, my bet would be on the 49ers starters getting some run against Houston on Thursday night. And then Rohan asked the question, are you going to Chicago? I am. I'm going to Chicago. I will be in Chicago for the 49ers season opener. I just got my plane tickets set up. I got my hotel room reserved. So I'm looking forward to getting out to Chicago. It'll be my first 49er game where I get to get on an airplane. I've been down to Los Angeles for a couple games. I was down in Anaheim. I believe it was 95. It's 95. Yeah, it was 95. I'm pretty sure it was 95. The 49ers played down against the Rams on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Was down there for that game. And then the only other game that I've been to on the road was the NFC Championship game last season. So I will be in Chicago. I'm extremely excited for that. As I've said in the past, I pay my own way to get to those games, which is partly why I wasn't in Minnesota for the practices this week and those kind of things. So that's part of it. I'm hoping to get to 3 road games this season, in addition to the 9 games at home that they have. So that'll be 12 will be the most that I've seen in a season. And, been a long time going to a lot of 49er games in the past. And that'll be the first time though that I've gotten on a plane going out to Chicago. So I'm looking forward to that. But beyond that, I just want to say thank you very much to everybody. We had over 100 people on here. I know it was kind of thrown together at the last minute. I thought that I had said it. And I came back to realize that I hadn't yet. So I appreciate everybody that took the time to jump in. Hope you guys like the content. If you can do me a favor before you leave, if you can hit the like button for me, that's the biggest one. Hit that like button and the subscribe button. Those 2 things need to happen, because the more likes that we get, the more this show gets out there to people and the rest of the 49er faithful. Hit that subscribe button so you don't. And when you hit that subscribe button, also hit the little bell notification so you get notified every time we go live. And then last but not least, the 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Go make that a favorite on your web browser and hit that thing up. That is how you get to the Inside the 49ers blog at the Press Democrat, 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. That's why I get to do what I do. They're the ones that have helped me get to where I am in terms of the platform and running the blog there. So if you guys can do me a favor and hit that up, that'd be fantastic. But last thing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And before I head out, thanks a lot. I appreciate all you guys taking the time on a Sunday night to watch me talk about the 49ers. So have a great rest of your Saturday night. Have a great rest of your weekend. I will be back with you soon with more 49ers content. Thank you guys all so much. Take care.